धनबाद की इस ज्ञान भूमि को मेरा सादर प्रणाम। To the visionary directors who shape the path of this institution, to the esteemed faculty who shape the minds that defines these institutions, and to my student friends who will shape the future of Bharat. Thank you for your very warm welcome to the IIT ISM Dhanbad. It is not every day that one is invited to speak at the 100th anniversary of any institute, and when that celebration belongs to IIT ISM Dhanbad, it is far more than an invitation. It is a once-in-a-lifetime historic opportunity to stand on the very grounds from which so many of our nation's custodians of the core have come from. I find it staggering that over a century ago, even when under the weight of British flag, the Indian National Congress recommended the setting up of this institution to meet Bharat's urgent need for mining and geology experts. Even in those challenging times, they understood a fundamental truth. अगर भारत को अपनी तकदीर संवारनी है तो उसे अपनी धरती की ताकत को समझना होगा। Our nation cannot rise to greatness unless she first masters the language of the earth under her feet. And so, this celebrations is not just an opportunity to reflect where you have come from. It is also a moment to define where you must go and chart the future that must be created. And it is on these aspects that I will like to speak today. To begin, let us first confront a sobering truth. The age of a collaborative global trade and supply chains is collapsing. We are all seeing nations once bound by strong alliances retreating into the shadow of self-preservation. The battles for a rare earth, semiconductors, tariffs, and the collapse of trade treaties are now the new normal and not the exceptions. And in this environment, even the most prominent global institutions such as NATO, the WTO, and the UN are being forced to reconsider their established frameworks and rules of engagement. My dear friends, sovereignty is defined as the ability to govern oneself without external influence and control. And in this era, where self-preservation dominates the global order, two pillars will be necessary to shape our sovereignty. First, master the resources below our feet. For he who commands his earth commands his sovereignty. Second, master the energy that fuels our rise. For she who owns her fire owns her sovereignty. And it is no coincidence that our ancient Vedas had articulated this truth long before modern geopolitics discovered them. या भूमिया पृथ्वी धनवती तेजः भवति भाग्यवती. Sovereignty belongs to those who commands their earth, and those who command their earth command their energy. And that is why our history must be our mirror. For whenever we have failed to recognize our own image, others have stepped in to paint it for us and define our destiny. And destiny, my young friends, is never gifted. It is the price of the fight to stay sovereign. Let us validate this with a familiar story. Once upon a time, as you know, about 100 kilometers from here stood the world's greatest seat of learning, Nalanda. Nalanda was not just a university. It was the command center of Bharat knowledge. It was Bharat dignity, proof that learning was our civilizational identity. It was Bharat destiny, for in his halls the future was authored before it was experienced. Its libraries housed manuscripts on a mining, metallurgy, energy, astronomy, governance, and many other sciences. Knowledge so advanced that seekers crossed oceans and deserts just to learn from Bharat and then carried the wisdom home. Therefore, when Bakhtiyar Khilji burned Nalanda, his aim was not just to destroy structures or set manuscripts on fire. His true target was our civilizational confidence, our knowledge systems, and our ability to think independently, free from foreign influence. And we should never forget this, because a civilization that forgets how it was broken forgets how to rise. Centuries later, when the British arrived in a Bharat already weakened, they did not burn knowledge, they replaced it. They engineered and education systems designed to produce clerks, not a thinkers. And in doing so, erase the stories, wisdom, and imaginations that once united Bharat. Where Khilji used fire, the British used curriculum. Where Khilji destroyed manuscripts, the British destroyed memory. My young friends, why do I tell you this? Because the day we forget these stories is the day our unity begins to fracture. For if we let these stories fade, we risk losing the very glue that binds our generations and anchors Bharat in a turbulent world. A turbulent world where no geopolitical alliances is clean. No geopolitical alliance is permanent. Every geopolitical alliance is conditional. Every geopolitical alliance is transactional. Independencies with alliance one day become influence, and influence one day becomes power. And the first thing that power takes control is his narrative. So, my young friends, what you learn here and what you build and implement when you walk out of these gates will decide whether our future sovereignty remains dependent on others or rises to stand on its own strength. इतिहास मत भूलो, भविष्य सौंपा नहीं जाता, कमाया जाता है। इतिहास मत भूलो, भविष्य सौंपा नहीं जाता, कमाया जाता है। जो तुम निर्माण करोगे वही राष्ट्र की दिशा तय करेगा। जो तुम बनोगे वही हमारा भारत बनेगा। And now, with this historical context, let us look at a contemporary example of what I mean, an example that is relevant to all of you. We live in an era of a narrative colonizations, where the very nations that plundered resources, enslaved continents, and burned fossil fuels for 2 centuries now stand on our moral platforms in our foreign capitals. Many of them now want to dictate the pace and style of Bharat's development. It is quite a paradox that those who heated the planet now want to set the rules for how we must cool the planet. This is the modern narrative. And so, if we do not control our own narrative, our growth will be criminalized, our aspirations delegitimized, and our right to improve our standard of living showcased as a global offense. जो हक हम नहीं मांगेंगे वो हमसे छीना जाएगा। जो हक हम नहीं मांगेंगे वो हमसे छीना जाएगा। जो कहानी हम नहीं लिखेंगे वो हमारे खिलाफ लिखी जाएगी। And this weaponized narrative surfaced at the 2025 COP30, where a report downgraded Bharat's sustainability ranking, arguing that our nation lacked a coal exit timeline and continues to auction coal blocks. So let us examine some data points. Yes, Bharat is the world's third largest electricity consumer